You're watching the Daily Climate Show on Sky News. On today's programme, disruption in Westminster as climate protesters block streets in the second day of demonstrations. Confirmation from scientists that climate change did make last month's deadly floods in Europe more likely. And the nature-inspired green materials being used in climate-friendly batteries. Hello and welcome to the UK's only daily climate news show. Now, it's day 2 of climate protests by Extinction Rebellion, with activists blocking roads around Parliament Square and targeting the HMRC building in Westminster. Protesters want the government to immediately end all investment in fossil fuels. But are the demonstrations likely to make a difference to government policy or turn people away from the cause altogether? Our climate correspondent, Hannah Thomas-Peter, reports.
Extinction Rebellion protesters in central London, racing to block Whitehall. All part of a 2-week plan to disrupt the capital. HMRC! HMRC! Today the target is the Treasury and government funding of the fossil fuel industry.
It's not just about the dividend at the end of the year. It's about making sure that there is an end of the year and the next year, and that our children have got a future to look forward to. It's one thing buying organic food from the health food shop on the corner. What difference does it make if your money is going into the fossil fuel industry?
Well done, darling. The police have warned that this kind of disruption is pulling them away from communities in need. The Mayor of London has said that he supports the right to democratic and peaceful protest and that climate change is something that needs tackling with increasing urgency. But he's also warned that disruptive actions that break the law will only be counterproductive to the cause. These protesters don't agree. Are you potentially overshadowing your message by causing so much disruption?
I think that the disruption currently caused by forest fires and floods are already causing more disruption than this. This is tiny. This is negligible, really.
I know that we're causing a lot of disruption. I really know that. But the disruption that if we don't do something, it's just going to be catastrophic. The whole planet's in crisis, and I just feel like the time is really running out.
Although, in terms of sheer numbers, Extinction Rebellion isn't the force it once was, it is still a determined one. However unlikely it is to shift government policy or the behaviour of big business, it has many more plans to stop business as usual in the nation's capital. Hannah Thomas-Peter, Sky News.
Climate change made the catastrophic floods in Europe last month up to 9 times more likely. That's according to rapid analysis by an international group of scientists. Parts of Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands and Luxembourg were devastated after rain caused severe flooding back in July. More than 200 people lost their lives and homes, businesses and infrastructure were all destroyed. Well, the World Weather Attribution Group carried out the analysis of the floods and found the extreme rainfall events that caused them are now between 1.2 and 9 times more likely to happen because of global warming. And you can see here how the extreme rain swept across Western Europe. It started in England on July the 11th before moving across France and Belgium and reaching Germany by the 13th of July. Now, by analysing weather records and using computer simulations, scientists found that downpours like this are now between 3 and 19% heavier in the region than when the world was 1.2 degrees cooler. And that 1.2 degree number is important because it's how much our planet has warmed since the Industrial Revolution. And you can see here on our data dashboard how global warming is ticking up the whole time, making extreme weather events more likely as well as more severe. Well, one of the lead authors of that report is Dr. Sarah Kew, a climate scientist from the Royal Netherlands Meteorological Institute. So welcome to you. Your study then showed that climate change did make the extreme rainfall that we saw more likely. But there was a big range in that likelihood, wasn't there, between 1.2 times and 9 times more likely. Why the breadth of that range?
Yeah, that's right. So our results highlight that at the local river catchment scale, that the detection of trends in extreme rainfall is hindered by the large day-to-day and year-to-year variability in the rainfall data. But when we considered similar events occurring over a larger Western European region, so between the northern side of the Alps and the Netherlands, we found that significant trends due to human-induced climate change then became evident.
So what can
the results?
No, do carry on.
Sorry? The results therefore show that there's a relation with climate change, and that's the most important conclusion. But we need more research, more model data, and more high-resolution models to be able to reduce the uncertainty range. And the factor 1.3 there actually means there's already been a 20% increase in frequency of these kinds of events, which is really important for impacts.
Well, yes, and what can be done to reduce the likelihood of this sort of event in the future then?
Well, there have always been extreme weather events that occur now and again, so that will also be the case in the future. However, we see that climate change is making extreme events like these more frequent and more intense. And the best thing to do about this is to rapidly reduce those greenhouse gas emissions. But we need to be aware that greenhouse gases will stay in the atmosphere for hundreds of years. So in our lifetimes, it will be a matter of not exacerbating the climate change any further, rather than being able to strongly reduce it. But adaptation will also help to reduce the impact of extreme weather on people's lives and also on the infrastructure, their livelihoods. So it's important for water boards and authorities, for example, to know what we can expect in the future. Dikes can be reinforced or flood buffer zones created in the locations where that is possible. Also, warning systems are obviously of very high importance, and reaching out to our vulnerable neighbours.
Dr. Sarah Q, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, in today's other climate news, more than 13,000 firefighters are attempting to contain a dozen large wildfires that have destroyed hundreds of buildings and forced people to evacuate their homes in California. Hot and dry conditions, made worse by climate change, have caused the fires to spread rapidly. Scientists are warning that wildfires will become more frequent as global warming intensifies. Development work at the site of the proposed Cambo oil field has been delayed until next year. It comes after Greenpeace claimed that work was starting early before permits had been issued. Sycar Point Energy said operational issues were behind the delay. The government's been criticised for letting plans for the site in the North Sea go ahead, despite hosting the COP26 climate summit in November. A demonstration flight of what could be the UK's first electric commuter plane successfully took off from Exeter today. The flight, which ended at Cornwall's Newquay Airport, is the start of low-carbon test flights between the two counties. If the trials are successful, hybrid electric planes, which produce 70% fewer emissions than traditional aircraft, could become a more common sight in UK skies. Now, here on the Daily Climate Show, we do love to feature people coming up with solutions to the climate crisis. And one of those is Professor Magda Titirucci, who's just won a Royal Society Award for her work on sustainable energy storage. Well, I'll be speaking to her in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at what she's been working on. And Professor Magda Titirucci from Imperial College London joins me now. First of all, many congratulations on your award. And first of all, let me ask you about the area of your work that focuses on lignin as an alternative to lithium for use in batteries like electric car batteries. Tell us what lignin is and why we need an alternative to lithium.
Yeah, so lignin is one of the components in any plants, along with cellulose and hemicellulose. For example, when we're using plants to make paper, we are after the cellulosic fraction, as well as when we want to make biofuels from biomass. And lignin is the fraction that nobody wants. That is normally of no use. And we found a solution, and we take this lignin, which is actually responsible of giving good strength and mechanical properties to plant, and taking inspiration from nature, a little bit like the spider spies the web, we spin this lignin into fibers, which we can make conductive and with good mechanical properties. And we can use this as electrodes in pretty much any battery, whether it's a lithium or sodium battery. And so it can be either the anode, which is the negative electrode, but it could also be on both sides for particular battery applications. And instead of lithium, we are then using some metallic sodium clusters, and we can produce batteries with an energy density that is higher than what lithium ions have today.
So how much greener is the production then of lignin, and how easy and cost effective might it be to get it to market?
So the lignin production is quite easy because we are doing this since we've discovered paper. This is produced in huge amounts of megatons a year in all the paper and plants industry, and now in all the biorefineries. And so it's a widely available resources, and it's almost available at no cost. Again, to produce the materials from lignin, you use relatively low energy input, low temperatures. In particular, we figure out that the lower the temperature that we use, the better the performance of this material is. So it is obviously most cost effective than a lithium-ion battery today, which relies on critical materials that are mined somewhere else rather than in the UK.
Fascinating stuff. Professor Magda Titorici, thanks very much indeed.
Okay.
And finally, Sydney has announced dark roofs will be banned on new homes in an effort to combat climate change in Australia. Lighter coloured surfaces retain less heat, resulting in less electricity being used to cool down buildings. The new rules also mean that every garden will be required to have a tree to provide shade and absorb carbon dioxide. And that's everything from us for today. Tomorrow, find out why climate change could mean UK summer holidays are under threat. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.